Okay. So basically, I'll put this back into a vehicle. So what it is, it's a special turning base. So somebody's having a tough time trying to get in. So this is a special seating system where we can put it into most vehicles, and it actually helps people get in and out of the vehicle, and it actually spins out of the vehicle and it lowers down and stuff. And I'll just sit into it and kind of do a demo of it and stuff. So as you can see, it just turns and everything. And it's all done by computer. We can program the seat by computer. So it's nice where if you're not using a wheelchair and you can still ambulate, but it's a tough time getting into a vehicle, you can just use this seat will actually help get you in and out of the vehicle and stuff. So as you can see. Now this type of seat, it's all power, but there is if the battery ever goes, you can always do it manually and stuff, but and it's all done by remote. So these are very popular, like I said, for people that have limited mobility, but they're not using a wheelchair full time. And so, and what they'll do is they'll just basically, they can stop it wherever it's as low or as high as they want. You can stop it here, or you can go even lower. So this is one option that we provide. It's a special turning seat. Now, if somebody says, okay, well, I'm using a wheelchair and it's tough for me to get in and out of the wheelchair, then we have accessible vans. Like for example, here's one where the ramp is on the side, and then it's all on there. You can hit a button. So you can do it from the remote control, or you can do it from any inside buttons and stuff. So as you hit it, the button, it does it all, where the door opens, the ramp starts to come down, and then the vehicle actually lowers to make it easier for somebody in a manual wheelchair or power wheelchair. So this is not steep at all. It's under 10 degrees. Now these types of vehicles, if somebody said, you know what, I'm going to drive for my wheelchair, or I'm going to be a passenger for my wheelchair, the seats can come out real easy. So the seats can come out real easy, where somebody can come in with their wheelchair and they can be right next to the driver and they can be secured. If we've actually had people that, if they want to be a driver, same thing. The driver's seat comes out the same way. So as you can see, the vehicle has been lowered. So to get the proper headroom in coming into a vehicle in a wheelchair, the vehicle floor used to be this high. Well, then they lower it, so the door height's about 56.5 inches. So when we work with families, we always say, what's the height from the ground to the top of your head? So we know how much room coming in. And then you can drive, you can come up and be a driver, or you can come up and be a passenger in the front. So this is one of the vehicles, like this is actually a Dodge Grand Caravan. The other option is if you're don't want to be a driver or passenger in the front, there is another type where, and this is one of the vehicles that I bring for the ride for ALS, because we can always fit all the bikes in here if they break down during the event and stuff. So it's a rear entry, and then you come in from the back, and then you can ride behind the two front seats, or you can flip the middle seats down. Well, this would flip down as well, and you can be a passenger right over here as well. So the nice thing about the rear entry is you don't have to worry about getting blocked in from the side, because you always have the rear ramp and everything. So there's the side entry, which we went over, the rear entry, in terms of the types of entryways into accessible lanes. And then you have, for example, here's a Chrysler Pacifica, where, as you can see, it's a different type of vehicle. Same system where the ramp is on the side, and you can take the front seats out as well. The Chrysler product gives you the most amount of room here, and the most amount of room inside the vehicle to turn your chair. So this is always the most amount out of any of the vehicles, is the Chrysler Pacifica. Headroom and turning radius. It's important if you have a big permobile chair and it's a long chair, you can maximize the amount of turning radius and stuff. So. And then we also have the Honda Odyssey, which is another vehicle. They have it where the ramp, instead of the ramp folding out, these are made where the ramp goes inside the floor. So I'll just hit the button. You'll see how the ramp comes inside the floor, different than the folding ramp that we looked at before and stuff. So. So all of these vehicles, we come in from the side. You can always take these front seats out and stuff. Now, when it comes to driving, if somebody wants to be a driver, they can put hand controls into any of the vehicles. If they have, we'll say, Toyota Camry, anything like that, you can do hand controls, and I'll grab the hand controls. All right, so this is like a sample hand control stand and stuff. So the hand controls, it's basically a lever that gets mounted underneath the steering column. So there's always a bar that goes directly to the brake. When you push on this bar, as you can see, the brake pedal activates. Now there's different ways to do the gas. I would pull forward, in this case, to do the gas. I can do like a twisting motion for the gas. I can push down for the gas, or I can pull forward for the gas. So there are different types of hand controls, but these can be mounted to golf carts, cars, trucks, you name it. As long as you've been evaluated by a certified driving evaluator to use these, we can put them into pretty much any vehicle that has automatic transmission, power brakes, and power steering. And then we can put special stuff on the steering wheel. If it's tough to grab the steering wheel, we have knobs, pins, and stuff like that. So it makes it easier to turn the wheel and stuff. So there's another option too, where I'll show you on this vehicle where you can do a lift on the back of a vehicle. So this basically, this lift would come down, you put your chair on it, and it would lift it back up. So this is an exterior mounted lift. So this is where if somebody could put their wheelchair here, and then they can just ambulate over to the passenger seat or driver's seat. So this is just a wheelchair lift that you could do from the back and stuff. And then the other option too is the bigger vans, which the only time I've really sold many of these big vans, these vans can hold pretty much up to 8 people, 2, 3 wheelchairs and stuff. These are the bigger full-size vans. So we don't sell too many of those. We sell more of the minivans because, you know, when they lower the floor, you can see out the windows a lot better. With these, they don't lower the floor, so you're looking at the windows. Once you're inside, you're looking up here. So it's a little tougher and stuff. So, but yeah, that's so basically what we do. We've been doing this for about since 1986, over 30 years. So we deal a lot with vehicles, driving, passengers, lifts, seats that come out and lower and everything. So, yeah, so if there's any questions, like I said, feel free. I'm open to any questions for sure.
Is there a weatherproof lift?
So is there a weatherproof lift? Okay, good question. There is a lift that you can do from the inside. This is just one of our demo vans. So if you come in over here, this is a lift that's inside the vehicle. So this whole platform would extend out of the vehicle and then lower, and you'd have your wheelchair right here. If it's an exterior mounted lift, it's basically people will put like a cover over an exterior mounted lift, but this is all inside. This is the interior mounted lifts.
With the exterior mounted lifts, would they be able to hold a power wheelchair on the back of the car?
Yes, it all depends on the vehicle, how much the tongue capacity on the vehicle is. So basically, I always tell people, let us know if it's a perma wheelchair, for example. You know, it's a 330-pound chair. You know, let us know what type of vehicle, because some vehicles you can put a lot of weight on the tongue, basically, and the hitch could be like a class 3 hitch, 2-inch receiver, which will hold more weight. So it all depends. Good question. It all depends on the chair and the vehicle. The bigger the vehicle, the more it'll hold in terms of the size of the chair and stuff. So.
Nancy has raised her hand. Nancy, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, Eric, how hard is it to drive one of those things?
So, good question. Nothing gets modified for the regular steering, transmission. Everything is the same. I'll show you in one of these vans really what gets modified. It's really it's a minivan, like any minivan that you see. The only difference really is steering wheel, gas and brake, nothing at all. As you can see, let me open this up here. Okay. The modifications start from this to the back. This is factory, all this, from the steering wheel to the front, nothing gets modified. It's really the floor. If you look up, all this has never been touched. This is all factory. So really the difference is once you lower the floor, if you're driving from your wheelchair, that's really where you see the difference. But when we put the seats back in, they're on the same height before the vehicle is ever lowered. So you're at the same eye level before any of this was ever done. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Eric, could you talk a little bit about the floor being lowered and any kind of precautions people should take because it's a different type of a vehicle when you're driving it in terms of going over bumps or going through water or anything like that that people should be conscious of?
Yep, yep. So when they lowered this floor, so just think about before this vehicle was ever lowered, the floor, an imaginary line is this right here. Now, the old days, you know, you remember the stow and go seats where the seats can hide in the floor? Well, what they do with these vans, all that where you can hide the seats in the floor, the stow and goes, they take it and they just basically put this floor above the frame. So they don't cut into the frame at all. It's basically taking the extra space they use for the seats that they put in, they take it all out. Now, the gas tank is now moved from here to the back. It's underneath the bench sheet. Brake lines, AC lines do get rerouted, so it sits a little bit lower than normal. But we have clients, we have stores in northern Maine, Vermont. They use them in the winter. The front wheel drive, the weight of the engine on those front wheels are really good for these types of vehicles. We just say when you go over a speed bump, just think of it like you're driving a sports car. Just go at an angle. Most sports cars out there will have lower clearance than these and stuff. So just go at an angle on speed bumps, really. If you're mud season in Vermont, you know, that you might have a problem. You might be hitting the muffler that's underneath the lowered floor. But outside of that, you know, in the 19 years I've been doing this, most of the vehicles, even in all of our northern states, they love these because they're good in the snow and they're good in the winter and stuff. So.
Could you talk, I know this is probably the elephant in the room that nobody wants to ask, so I will. Could you talk about what cost is like, what financing is like, what a typical, when a person goes through to look for a van, what do you guys do to help the family kind of meet their needs and identify things that they might need in a van, but then also work with them on pricing and things like that?
Yeah, good question. So I always ask, the first thing is, are you a veteran? Because ALS veterans are service connected, where they give you a grant to purchase a vehicle and they pay for all to be modified, along with other benefits like modifying your home. So anytime I speak with families, I say, are you a veteran or are you currently working? Because each state has programs where they'll help pay for modifications to a vehicle, just as long as you're, working. They want you to be working and stuff. So those are the two biggest funding sources, is the VA and your local Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission, New Hampshire Voc Rehab, stuff like that. In terms of grants, we see a little bit here and there in terms of grants and stuff. People, I had an ALS family who got a grant from Harvard. There's somebody at Harvard that had established a grant, and then they were able to get some money to purchase a vehicle and stuff. So there's, with vehicles, we always want to make sure we know their height in the chair, how long the chair is, to figure out which vehicle fits them best. And then at that point, we have used vehicles. We have 90 stores. So used vehicles that could be anywhere from 15,000 fully converted with the lowered floor to new ones, which are over 60,000. So, but yeah, in terms of funding sources, it's definitely VA, local rehab commission, Voc Rehab stuff. Outside of that, if there's fundraisers, I've brought vehicles to fundraisers, and people have, just saw what they're raising funds for. And then, so it's any way that we can help, definitely, we're glad to accommodate. But you're right though, Shannon, it's the lowered floor does take about 4 to 5 weeks to do in addition to the vehicle. So that's why if you look at a Dodge like this, a brand new Dodge, you could probably get it for $35,000, just the vehicle alone. But then you add in this conversion, that's about $30,000 brand new. So that's where you get a $65,000 vehicle. But then once, used, they depreciate, and then, we have them $15,000 and up and stuff. So. In terms of financing, we have a lot of banks that we use because we're RideAway, like you were saying. I started with RideAway in 2002. We had 24 stores before we merged with MobilityWorks, so now we have about 90. So we have banks we use all over the country because we're nationwide. So we can do up to 10-year financing, as low as 1-year financing. We do leasing. Any of the loans we do are prepayment penalty free. So if somebody, for example, wanted to throw an extra payment down, or they get their tax return, whatever, they get a donation. They can pay off the loan. There's no fee. And then what we do too is, God forbid something happened, we get calls all the time saying, we don't need a vehicle anymore. So we do purchase them back and stuff. We have a buyback department. That way people are like, at least I'm not stuck with the vehicle. We were always looking for used vehicles to refurbish and sell to others as well too. So.
Thanks, Eric. I think Nancy had her hand raised.
I did, and I was really going to ask what you just covered, Eric, was, about resale, because it is a big purchase, and sometimes someone, buys it and they don't use it as much, or, someone can't use it, and I just wondered, how much value there is. But you said you do buy them back, so that's good. Okay.
Yeah, because it provides us with good inventory as well. So it helps out the family and it helps us out. So,
are there a lot of used vehicles?
Most of the vehicles, good question. Most of the vehicles we have are used. And the reason why is new vehicles. So there are two big major manufacturers that do all the conversions. MobilityWorks, which has been doing it for over 50 years. And then the other one is Vantage Mobility. So those are the two biggest in the country. We can get new vehicles from their inventory anytime. So we don't have to take all the room in our lots for new vehicles, because we can get them here within a week or two. Most of the vehicles we have are used. So we probably have 1,600 vehicles or so. The last I checked, we had about close to 2,000, but at least 1,600 of those were used for sure. So
Richard wants to know if you accept trade-ins.
Yeah, we definitely accept trucks, cars. We've accepted motorcycles on trade. We have local dealers in the area that we work with, and we basically just send them pictures of whatever vehicle it is. And because these dealers are always looking for good inventory, so basically they will give us an appraisal value, and then when we consummate a deal, the vehicle, if it's a Chevy Traverse, for example, that SUV will go to them, and whatever they give us, $20,000 for the Traverse, we apply it to the cost of the vehicle, so it lowers it down.
And what's the warranty?
Warranty, good question. So there's two parts. There's the warranty on Dodge, like this whole Dodge part. Every new vehicle is a 3-year warranty, 36,000 miles. Now, the modifier, Bronability, matches the factory warranty of 3 years, 36,000. So like if you got a vehicle that was new, it's 3 years on the modifications and the factory part. If it's used, you get the balance of that, the balance of 3 years of the vehicle and the modifications. Now, if you get a vehicle that is beyond 3 years, we have extended warranties that will cover the vehicle and the modifications. So you can save a lot of money by going used and then insure it with a warranty like it's brand new warranty. So.
I had a quick question about the hand controls. I know that some folks utilize hand controls when wanting to still drive, and you showed us the example. Now, when you get fitted for hand controls, do you have all of those options on there, or is it just whatever works for you? That's the option that's placed on that vehicle.
Good question. So we have the evaluation van for Central Massachusetts Safety Council. They're a big driving evaluator. So Don Sampson, actually, he was just here earlier. We have the eval van we take care of, and have several different types of hand controls that you can put in and out of it. So Don he's the evaluator. He'll drive around and see which hand control works best, and then he's like the doctor. He writes up the prescription and saying, you need a push rocked hand control. We can install that because we can get any type of hand control. We just got to make sure which one the certified driving evaluator prescribes, we install. So,
Are the Toyotas all-wheel drive? Any of the two?
so none of the accessible vehicles are all-wheel drive because when you lower the floor, the linkage that goes from the front axle to the back, this lowered floor is in the way. So they're always going to be front-wheel drive.
Richard, this is Erin Lajeunesse speaking. I'm doing the videography. So I couldn't understand your question, or I couldn't read the second half of your question. Can you type it again, please?
Oh, I can help you there,
Can you-
Erin.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
Do you go to a specific repair place and do you get a vehicle to use in the meantime?
So we have, if it's a vehicle that has any trouble with all the adaptive equipment, we have vehicles that we have at each of our locations, and they're basically rental vehicles. We can't do a loaner for insurance purposes, but we do a low-cost rental. So the rental, the normal price for rental is more definitely, and then people could use that for the day and come back and pick it up. We actually can send drivers to pick up a vehicle, bring it to our garage, and then bring it back too. So if it's tough for someone to bring the vehicle in, we do have drivers. So
Tori wants to know if you have a service department.
yes, yeah. So our service department, we're here Monday through Friday. We have technicians on site Monday through Friday. Now, if something ever happened outside of the hours, each day there's a technician that carries one of their the emergency phones. So if it's 10 o'clock at night, the ramp isn't going down, the adaptive equipment, because we have people that drive these things with joysticks. We have people that drive with really high-tech driving equipment. So if anything goes wrong, we have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week emergency road service. So one of our technicians goes out on the road.
Speaking of rentals, we do have some folks who look to rent a vehicle just for a weekend or a getaway, or, you know, now that the weather is getting nicer, just to kind of get out for a drive. Do you guys do, like, what's your type of policy for like weekend visit or weekend rentals and things like that? And what should people do if they're looking to just rent for a short period of time?
Yeah. So we do have rentals. We have rentals out of all of our stores. And we just, like you were saying, it's really when people want to get out is when we get the demand. So I always tell people, you know, if you're looking into renting for the 4th of July, for example, or Memorial Day, those holidays really go quick. So I always tell people, just, you know, book it now. You can always cancel it because we have a waiting list of people. Hey, they call us because they're more reactive than proactive and say, oh, I should have called a lot earlier. You're on our waiting list. So I would book it and cancel it if you didn't need the rental, but you can do it for a day. It's $129 for a day. If you get 100 free miles with it. If you do it for a weekend, it's $299 for the weekend. And then if you rented, for example, longer than 7 days, the rate goes from 129, it drops it down to like 119, if you go longer than that to 109. So the longer you rent, the less it is per day.
I guess it's Ron St. Laurent. So the rentals, there is a long-term rental program?
So good question. If you're going to rent long-term, I always tell my families, if you're doing long-term, you probably would want to look at purchasing, even if it's like I said, a used one. And so if we do the math, $129 a day, and we'll say you rent it for 2 months. So $129 times 30 days, and you do that, you double that, that becomes close to what, $5,000–6,000 or something like that, So I always tell people rentals are good. But if you start looking at doing like 2 months, 3 months, it ends up adding up pretty significantly. So, but it's great for a day. It's great for a couple days, great for a weekend. Absolutely. But if you're doing it consistently for 2 months, I was doing the math for one of my clients has workers' comp, and they're hesitating of purchasing the vehicle, but they've been renting, they're pretty much good. They've been going on 8 months now. When I pulled it up, I said, well, all this amount of money you spent could have went to purchasing it and stuff. But now if they get approved to purchase it through workers' comp, you just threw whatever, $15,000–$20,000 away and stuff, you know what I mean? So it's like, I always tell people it's good to rent, definitely, if it's short, but don't do it if you're doing it for months at a time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Hi, this is actually Jane Farnham. I know it says Richard up there, but
Sorry.
it's okay. So my question is, we live in the Berkshires. We live way out on the tip of Vermont. Nobody ever comes out here. Everybody's like, oh, you live in Boston? No, we're 3 hours away from Boston. So my question is, what is available out here? Or like, how would I go about like looking into, possibly getting a van, but just starting the process being way out here?
Good question. So I've gone out to tip of Vermont, like Newport, Vermont. I pretty much go everywhere. I'm going to Burlington in a few weeks. So I travel everywhere. I've been to Bennington, Brattleboro,
Yeah, closer to Bennington. I'm about 40 minutes from Bennington.
Okay, because I've done several deliveries in Bennington. So for me, I go pretty much anywhere. So I can always bring vehicles to the house.
Oh.
So, I've done vehicle deliveries in Syracuse. I've done them in Albany.
Okay.
So it's, I would love just, if you say come out and bring a vehicle, it's a day trip for me. I can just go out there and.
So is there like an inventory to look at online so that we could, like I could see, I don't know, how you can go on and look at used cars or whatever. Is there any way to look at that or not really?
Yes. Yeah, we do have a website. What I always recommend is it's really overwhelming,
Okay.
to say the least. So I always tell people, just send me an email, and can you send me information just on vehicles in this price range and this type of vehicle. And then when I send emails, I can really simplify it. That way you don't have to spend hours. You can just see, okay, these are the vehicles that are right in that range that you're looking at, and here's pictures and information.
Okay.
So I pretty much do all the legwork. I just basically simplify it for you guys.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just put Eric's email in the chat for you all, so that you have that. And I'll also put his cell phone number because he's really good at answering his cell phone. He is really good. I talk to him all the time.
And Shannon, I have to say, he answers it as his wife. He answers it day and night and weekend and any other time. So I can verify that. Sorry, I had to add that.
No, that's perfect. No, he really, I know that he's gone and delivered and brought out vans to families on a Saturday and a Sunday. So he's very accommodating when it comes to other folks out there. I know that Tori has written in the chat, are there leasing options? And what
There
are those
is.
like?
Yep. So leasing is done on a new vehicle or a vehicle that is pre-owned. Like this vehicle right here, this is a 2019. It's one of the certified pre-owns, basically. So this is a vehicle that has about 20,000 miles. Braun bought a vehicle and then modified it after. So instead of buying brand new, the vehicle's got 20,000 miles, but all the equipment is brand new. So you can lease a new conversion, used vehicle, or brand new. Those are the stipulations for leasing. You can do a 3-year lease, 4-year lease, 5-year lease. And at the end of the lease, basically, you just can have the option to buy the vehicle, or you can actually just give the keys and say, you know what, I'm going to lease something different. Now, I ran into this the other day with a lease, and I always tell people right up front, you know, if you do a lease, you know, I had a family where he leased it for his mom and stuff. She had MS. She ended up getting pneumonia. So she passed away a year and a half into the lease. Now leasing, if you do a 3-year lease, you're still have to pay 3-year lease. So basically what happened is he's still paying for a vehicle that his mom's not using and stuff for another year and a half. So leasing is a good option, but in like his case, something happened for his mom, and then he's still responsible for the lease and stuff. If you're for financing, you can always just say, okay, you know what, my dad doesn't need it anymore. I can sell the vehicle to MobilityWorks or somebody that in the, like you were saying, Shannon, in the ALS network of families, and then I could take the money and just pay off the loan and then just go from there. So.
It's Jane again. Can I ask another question? I guess what I'm struggling with right now is the fact that my husband, thankfully, is still using a walker.
Mm-hmm.
When I have to transport him anywhere, though, I put him in the transport chair. Then I have to, you know, like struggle him to put him in the car and everything. But I mean, I like the chair that turned around and swiveled out, and because that would be perfect, because that's what I always have trouble with. But my thing is, I don't know how long he's going to be in a walker. We have a power wheelchair that's been ordered. I mean, we don't know, obviously, we don't know how this disease is going to manifest itself, how quickly or whatever. So my thing is, I feel like, I don't know, is there a van that accommodates both, I guess?
Good question. And you know what, I hear this question so many times, and I'm glad you asked it, because the seat that comes out that you saw, you know, that seat, and the price of that seat is about $9,500. That whole seat that comes out and lowers, there's a lot that goes into it. Now you have to think about doing a lift on the back of a vehicle to lift the power chair, because you got to get the power chair in, for example, you know, and the lift like that's like $3,000. But you say, okay, 6 months down the road, we don't need the seat, we don't need the lift. I always tell people, something that's progressive, I would think of more long-term, go immediately to a vehicle. That way you're not spending money on a seat that you use for 6 months or a lift you use for 6 months, you know.
Yeah.
If it was spinal cord, I would say, yeah, you know, you could probably use that type of seat because it's not as progressive. But with ALS, PLS, you know, there's, you know, whatever it is, anything that's progressive, I would think more go right to the vehicle and don't worry about spending any money leading up to that point. so.
So you mean just go right to the vehicle that would accommodate a power wheelchair?
Exactly. Yeah. And because if you bought a seat and we put it in, $9,500, you bought a lift to put the vehicle,
Right.
so then you don't need that seat, 6 months from now, then you spent $9,500 and you're like, oh boy, I probably should have done the van in hindsight because I
Right.
spent $9,500 for a seat that I'm not going to use anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know if that kind of makes any sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, but I was just trying to figure out how to, because I mean, obviously you just don't know. You don't
Exactly.
know how long,
Yep.
and I don't want to, I don't know. I'm struggling getting him in, I pull the chair up to the side of the truck because we're using his truck because it's higher up. And then I've got to like lift him up and try to hoist him to the seat and push him on. And right now, and then I throw the wheelchair right in the back because it folds up because it's just a transport one. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you don't know how long, and I obviously don't want to make the wrong decision and buy something that's not going to benefit in the long run, like you said. But that's why I'm just, I feel like I don't know what to do because I feel like I can still struggle the way I'm doing with it, but then what happens when I can't, and or when he needs a wheelchair right away and all of a sudden I can't transport him.
Yeah. Well, what we have is like today, I'm glad you guys are all on the call because you can see all the vehicles that we have are already adapted. So one day you're trying and it's tough to lift him in and he's losing some of mobility and you're doing a lot more of the lifting. If, I've had people call me and say, you know what, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Bring a vehicle out. They're already done. People can get vehicles within a week. You know what I mean? So don't think of it like you have to, be proactive long ahead of time. We've already got them already done. We've got people that call us and next week they're in a van. You know what I mean? So
the van, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be taking over, but I'm just.
Oh no, we have plenty of time.
So I know when, like, if he gets picked up by Cabulance or something, they have all the hookups that can hook it. So in the vans that are set up for the power wheelchairs, are they also set up for just the manual? So if we were to just get the van, use it and hook it up manually and not struggle to get it in the seat, and then later it could be used for the power wheelchair?
Yeah. You'll see on the floor, you'll see like there's these tracks that run all over the floor. Well, there's tie downs that get in here and there's the hooks and it hooks onto the chair. So you could hook the chair in the middle and he can try to get into the seat here from the inside. But all these tracks on the floor go to hooking a manual or a power wheelchair down.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's probably better. As long as you could do both with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
It does look like Nancy mentioned that they may be selling one, and I do have another family who is selling a vehicle. So I can certainly, and I may have shared that with a few of you already, and I can certainly send you that information. If Nancy, if you would like to, you're more than welcome to share your vehicle information with me, and I can put that out to everyone. Or if you're still on, I can't see you. If you're still on and you want to talk about the vehicle that you may be selling, you're more than welcome to as well.
This vehicle would be from Michael, who's on the call. So I would have to talk to him, but I'll make sure I take your email information and I'll talk to Mike and see what he wants to do. It is from MobilityWorks. So.
Great.
We'll get in touch with you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Eric, Ron again. So what are you talking for a cost on a lease?
So leasing, typically what happens is with leasing, 3-year lease, your payments would be pretty high because it's a 3-year term and stuff. Because these vehicles, think about in this respect, a new vehicle is about 60,000 or more, but then you want to try to fit that into a 3-year lease. So you're looking at, like, if you're doing a lease on a new vehicle, you're probably close to about $1,000 a month.
Okay.
If you go to longer, 4 or 5 years, it kicks it down and stuff. But it's different than your conventional lease that you see like on TV, on a $30,000 vehicle. This is, you add the modifications, it's like double that. So that's what I always tell people. If you're doing a lease, especially a 3-year lease, your payments will be pretty high. So
Okay. Thanks again.
Hey, Eric, I'm wondering what the difference is between, you said that we could get one to purchase for as low as 15,000 to as much as 60,000. And I understand the 60,000 vehicle is the brand new, fully loaded.
yeah.
What's the difference between the two? I mean, that's a huge cost variance.
Sure. I just delivered one in Hyde Park, Vermont, just close to Stowe, Vermont. And she said, I want to be at 15,000. So I found a 2007. It had about 89,000 miles. We did all the work. Her mechanic checked it out, said it was a good vehicle. And that's an example of a vehicle that I sold at 15,000. It was a 2007 with that mileage and stuff. So.
And the lift and everything, that was new, or that was also a used lift?
No, this was a used. It was a 2007 Dodge Grand Caravan where the ramp came out from the side, like this one here is. So it was a 2007. It was close to 90,000 miles, but it was priced at 15,000 where she wanted to be and stuff. So if you went with like a 2010, then you'd probably look in something a little more expensive and stuff. So, but to kind of give you an idea of a $15,000 vehicle that I just delivered, was a 2007 with close to 90,000 miles. Then if you go a little newer in year, then it goes up to 20, and then, a little newer than that to 25, 30. So just kind of give you a baseline and stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Denise.
My question is if you had a van, like if someone I know has a handicap van that her parents had, she's like, Denise, well, when you need one, let me know. It had a power wheelchair in it, and we could, he had Parkinson's, her dad. But like my fear is this something that if I could get someone, because I don't know anybody to even look at these to say, yeah, it's in good shape, it's worth it or not. Is that something that Mobility will assist us with if we wanted to evaluate it?
To give a car a once over to look over?
Yep. Good question. And what we'll do is we'll bring you inside the shop, because we have lifts. As you saw inside here, we have lifts, because the major thing with these vehicles, because when you lower the floor, a lot of people, we undercoat them and make sure when we get them in on trade, if we see that they're not a decent vehicle, we wholesale them. We send them to the wholesaler. So we put them up on the lift, and we see if there's any of the frame rails that have been compromised. We put a camera in the frame. So that way we know if the things are rusting from the inside out. So we can tell you, honestly, this is a good van, I'd go for it. Okay. Or here, look at this. You could see the frame rails where the shock mounts are and stuff like that. But that's something definitely that we would do. Just call me, and I just, have our used vehicle manager put up in the lift, and he could assess it and say, yeah, this will get you years upon years, or no, you probably want to stay away because look at here, this is where it's starting to rust through. So
that's good to know. Because I know she's offering it, but I'm like, how do I know, where we're at with it? And I just don't want to get caught.
Yeah. And, in what I've seen, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to go and buy them off, we'll say like a Craigslist or an internet. And then they come here and then they say, oh, we need some service. Then we put up on the lift and we're like, you shouldn't even be driving this thing. The floor is going to fall through because it's rusting out, you know? And they're like, well, I just bought this thing. And I'm like, well, you're not going to be able to get in state inspected next year and stuff. So that's why I always tell people, even if you look at something privately or over the internet, you got to make sure, like you had said, it's checked out, because it could be, you know, a $15,000 paperweight, basically, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of, because this isn't something that, quote, your average mechanic might fully understand.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to purchase something then be like, oh boy, I got to put all this money into it, or I can't get it state inspected.
Do you have a location near Lowell?
Yes, I actually work out of Londonderry, which is where we're here now. I was actually just in Tewksbury before coming here, and Woburn. So I work in New Hampshire and Woburn, which is sandwiched in between Lowell and stuff. So.
But again, Eric goes everywhere. He's literally been everywhere. So
Yes, he does. I don't see him.
So you will do, like, if you didn't have hand controls, like right now I don't need hand controls to drive, but say I eventually will need them, but I got a van ahead of time.
Yep.
Will you put hand controls into that van?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and if we'll say you have, and we've done it before, where golf carts, you know, those off-road side-by-side vehicles, we do hand controls in those. So, you know, we do them pretty much anything that's got automatic transmission, power brakes, power steering, really. So.
And if you are looking into hand control, we do have you know, we do have some families who have gone through the process and have done that. We can certainly reach out to them and see if they will be willing to kind of speak to you about the ins and outs and what it kind of the experience is, because it is a little different, again, because you're driving with your hands and not your feet. So so if you're looking to kind of do something like that, we do have folks who have gotten the hand controls in their vehicles, and may be able to connect with you just about talking about that process and what that was like. And you know, if we've actually provided reimbursement for any expenses. You know, if you've paid to put in the hand controls in the car, you can use our quality of life grant to be reimbursed up to $500 for that. So, and the same thing goes as well with renting a van. If you're looking to rent a vehicle for a weekend, and you take a van out for the weekend or a day, or you need to drive to Mass General and you need to rent a vehicle, we can reimburse you up to $500 through our quality of life grant for that rental as well.